subject of today's discourse is macropsychic connection and micropsychic longings. The microcosm cannot remain without thinking. To remain at a standstill is not its nature. Think it must. And is the macrocosm also compelled to think? Partly yes, partly no. When the balance in the triangle of binding fetters is maintained, there is no expression of creation, and then the macrocosm does not think at all. But as soon as the supreme triangle is imbalanced, and its equilibrium and equipoise are lost, then the attributional expressions of creation start from one of the vertices of the triangle, and then the macrocosm also cannot remain without thinking. It is bound to think of something. It thinks of its created objects. A microcosm, a unit being, may think, I am an insignificant person, I am not educated, I have neither intellect nor erudition nor wealth. Does Paramapurusha think of me also? Me, a very small, insignificant microcosm. They should remember that Paramapurusha not only does think of them, he is bound to remember that. He is bound to think of them by force of circumstances. Paramapurusha cannot think. These are just very ordinary human beings, merely managing to make both ends meet. I can't think of them. I cannot think like this, because by providential decree, the macrocosm is bound to think of his created objects, he cannot forget them. And does he think only of a human being or only of a white ant? No, he thinks of all. Sama Prishina Sama Marshakena Sama Nagena Sama Ebi Stribihi Lake. He looks upon a tiny white ant with as much love and affection as on a mosquito, nor does he think of a large mammoth more than other entities. For a mammoth has a mind just as an ant has. So he thinks equally of all. He thinks of a white ant or a mosquito with the same seriousness as of a mammoth or an elephant, and he attaches same importance to each individual creature as to all the three worlds. So you understand that you are not at all insignificant. Your existential value is very great. Just as the macrocosm thinks of the microcosm, so the microcosm also thinks of the macrocosm. Macrocosm meditates on microcosm, and microcosm meditates on macrocosm. But what happens as a result of this mutual thinking? The microcosms attract the macrocosm within themselves, and the macrocosm arouses supreme devotion in the microcosms, and bestows permanent liberation upon them. Because of this meditative emanation of the macrocosm, the universe moves, and because of the longings of the microcosm for the macrocosm, the unit moves from 0 point to the vast range of infinity. When the mental object of the unit mind is crude, the unit mind drifts away from the macrocosm. But even while thinking of crude objects, if one ideates on consciousness even for some time, one attains a certain degree of progress and moves towards Paramapurusha, towards permanent liberation. This is the eternal lila of Paramapurusha. When human beings bring something within the scope of their intellect, and by perceiving and observing it closely, can understand the cause behind it, this is called krida. And when the cause is beyond the scope of their thinking, it is called lila. Whatever the macrocosm does is beyond the periphery of the human intellect, and that is why whatever he does is his lila. In the process of thinking, if the microcosm's full energy of thought is devoted to Paramapurusha, then suspension of thought will result, and a temporary state of effortlessness or inaction of mind, which is called yoga. Sarvashinta parityago nishinto yoga uchate. 2 plus 2 equals 4. This addition is called yoga, and the merger of the unit mind in the cosmic mind is also called yoga. But the difference between these two types of yoga is that one is the yoga of addition, yud plus gain, and the other is the yoga of unification of unit mind with macrocosmic mind, yud plus gain. If you put sand and sugar together, they become mixed, but they do not become one. The sand and sugar are still separate, but if sugar and water are mixed together, they become one, sugar water. Can you separate the sugar from the water? No, you cannot, because they are already unified.